Hi, everybody. Welcome to Association Rockstars, where we hear about the journey and insights of amazing association executives and partners who are building the industry of tomorrow. I'm your host, Lowell Aplebaum. I'm the CEO of Vista Cova, where we help to partner with organizations on facilitation of strategy, governance, and board practices. I'm excited to have with me today Samyuktha Neeraja. Hope I got it.
Okay.
MPHCAE. Samyuktha and I, at the beginning, were talking about the importance of names and identity. And so we may touch on that. But let me finish our introduction so you know who we're talking to today. Samyuktha is the State Association Relations Manager at the American Association of Nurse Anesthesiology. And she helps with their governance, their leadership, and infrastructure-related needs. I'm so happy we're going to be talking about leadership. Samyuktha co-hosts a Little Perspective podcast, which you should absolutely listen to if you have not yet. It's a platform for lifting up voices for marginalized groups, co-authored the best-selling anthology, A Little Perspective, Real Stories of Little Ladies. She's a disability advocate, a steward of DE&I. She has given various speaking engagements, sharing her experiences as a South Asian woman with dwarfism and how organizations can better support people with disabilities. Samyuktha, I'm so happy that you're with us today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Lowell.
We always like to begin these conversations in a similar fashion. I have little ones at home that often we talk about skills and strengths and superpowers. And so you are, an anthology, a podcast, a successful career. I'd love to hear, just as your own journey, what's one of the things that you would say is one of your superpowers that you bring to the table?
So I would say that one of my superpowers actually started since probably day one, since I ever stepped on this earth, is determination. I am a person who is determined to succeed because of all the barriers that I've, had to overcome, or all of the misconceptions, just the attitudes I've had to, dismantle and educate. Determination is what got me through. It got me through using my voice for allowing to be vulnerable and like share my story, to succeed in my career, to achieve the different various milestones in my life. Like, currently my CAE, like from last year, I was determined to get it. In my work, I feel like I have to work twice as hard to show, my capabilities, and to show that I can do just the same things, and even more than the average size person sometimes. So I would say, yeah, that is my like superhero, and probably the central theme of my life.
Do you feel like it's something that you developed over time? Do you feel like each experience strengthened the determination? Was it something you were taught? Like, how did the experiences teach it to you? Was it something that was taught like by a person or by people or by example?
I would say both. Culturally, coming like being Indian American, culturally determination is has been, instilled in us, especially with the history of colonization, of being surviving. We are a rich, diverse heritage and determination, fighting against a system that's been working against us, and fighting against white supremacy, or just colonization. And my ancestors were determined to get that freedom. So it was a lot of standing up against injustice and surviving just to get our basic needs met. So that is something that's been instilled culturally, like hard work. I will always remember my mom will say, we're also immigrants. Like, my mom and I emigrated to this country. I was just about a year old, and she would always say there's no substitute for hard work, especially in a country that's a new country that sells itself on hard work gets you somewhere. Hard, even though you can work hard but still may not get a chance. So that, and just a combination of like me just trying to fight for who I am, just trying to basically be seen for the human being that I am, and showing that I got this, I can achieve this just as anyone else. And I hope that that determination will serve as like inspiration or empowerment for other underrepresented voices to be able to get to places they deserve to be seen in.
I mean, I love the the image you paint of sort of standing on the shoulders of your ancestors with the determination, and that being hopefully a source of strength as you continue your own journey.
100%.
How'd you first find your way to the association world?
So I always say coming to the association is a happy accident for me. I never expected to find my calling in the association world. I always thought that I would do something, in the hospital administration side, healthcare administration. I was very interested in that. Actually, just backtracking a little bit, growing up, in a South Asian family, the general stereotype is that a lot of families, they expect their kids to be doctors or scientists or engineers or lawyers growing up, because that's what defines success, that you made it in life. But my mom, she was very more open-minded, and she just wanted me to succeed and have the full quality productive life. But I still wanted to do something in science. And I realized, because I didn't want to do medicine necessarily, so I thought I would find a cure for a disease. I would do microbiology. So that's what I got my bachelor's degree in. But then as I was doing undergrad research, I realized, what, this is not for me. It's very isolating. I'm really much more of a people person than I thought I was. So that's how I went into my master's of public health at Benedictine. And I said, okay, do I still want to do, research? Because there's clinical research. I started doing a little bit of it, but I said, no, I really want to be behind the big decision making. I want to wear the suits and walk around and just be that big person. So I
Yeah.
thought, okay, healthcare administration is the way to go. Being in a hospital, being in those big executive board meetings, just those visions I had. And then again, I just thought it was too fast paced. I just thought it was just very political, a lot of decisions will have reparations that affect patients. So I thought, okay, this is a lot. This is too much for me. And then I was actually laid off of my first job after I got my master's. And then I just happened to find a position opening at the American Osteopathic Association. That was my first association job. And the CEO, I remember at that time, she literally said to me, "You are a person who is determined to succeed." And I haven't met her before. I just talked to her for a few minutes, shared my story, and she knew that there was a place for me at her organization. And that's how it started. And it's been, the perfect place for me. The association realm has been the perfect place for me ever since.
We hear titles like COO, we hear titles like a VP of membership. That I'm interested. Your focus on governance, leadership, infrastructure related needs, right?
Mm-hmm.
What do you love about what you do? Those feel like really fun places to play, but critical to the organization within the realm of the path it's taking you to. What about your current work and your current place where you get to make impact? Do you love what you do?
Yes, I really love what I do because we're working directly with the members. We're working with the members, not necessarily in their clinical role, but our state management affairs, they help volunteers. They help state leaders. So we help because AANA is the mother association, and there's 52 different state associations. And each
Right.
state association has their own volunteer board of directors. They have their own association manager, executive director that, is responsible for the operations. So our department, my team, we help those states with anything they need, leadership development, governance, any services, resources that they may need. So they have the tools to run a successful association for their own members in their state. So it's very rewarding because they're so appreciative. And it's just, I appreciate what they do more because their job, they're extremely busy.
Yeah.
Especially being nurses, being CRNAs, they're in the OR day in, day out. And then to also manage to balance a full-time job, a volunteer role on top of maybe having a family and other things, I appreciate them more. I value what they do more. And they also really are very vocal and very grateful about the work that we do to support them. So I see the impact there, just and with the leadership trainings that we provide, or with the resources and services that we provide, they're able to take that and also indirectly affect better patient outcomes. So it all comes full circle.
You tell their story well. But from some of the other things you've done, that's not surprising to me. I'd love to hear a little bit more about the anthology you put together. Where the idea for doing that, where did it come from? And any like lessons that stick with you as you compiled these stories that, for people listening that want to be leaders in the association realm, like what emerged from that anthology that are some good lessons for us to learn from?
Good question. So I actually was invited to do the anthology, and by the current co-host. So I co-host the podcast A Little Perspective with my friend and co-host Angela, and Angela is the visionary behind the book. So she invited me because I was actually a guest on her podcast when she was doing it solo. This is like 4 years ago. She was doing she was still doing the podcast at that time, but it was just her, and she was focusing on people with dwarfism, like for her podcast guests. And then I was one of her guests for Dwarfism Awareness Month, and she was very impressed, with the story. She was very moved by what I had to share, and she's like, I need her to be a part of my anthology. I need her voice. So I was very floored. I was very honored, because I always thought maybe down the road, one time of my life, I would write a book, because I really felt that people need to hear my story. But then when this opportunity came along, it was almost too good to be true. So it was a very powerful, impactful time for me. And because in my story, my chapter is about the dating experiences of being an Indian American woman with dwarfism, and just finding love and navigating all of those obstacles when it comes to dating, and the online dating, and just the judgments and prejudices and the stereotypes. And just I'll be honest, there are people that see having people with dwarfism as a fetish, or dwarfism is very objectified. And those are some of the misconceptions that we're still, working through, and that we're always going to have to deal with. And so, where you get rejected for who you are. So it was a very powerful, in the sense, I learned a lot about myself, and I learned a lot about what I want and what I deserve to have, and that I am enough, that I am worth it, and that I don't need a man's validation to tell me that. So
that's a great. I'm sorry you had to learn a lesson in a difficult way, but I think it's a good message that make sure my daughters listen and hear your voice as well.
Yeah.
I'm interested if I can tap into sort of what your expertise and where you enjoy teaching others. Organizations better supporting people with disabilities. I'd love to. I'm a student of affirmative inquiry. I think you should focus on strength. What does it look like when this goes well, right? When organizations are really doing this at excellence? Have you seen many that are doing it at excellence? What is when you're talking to organizations and organization leaders that are doing so, what lets you know that this is something that they have really invested in and rallied around and structured around, trying to make sure that there's priority in how they function and how they flow?
That's a good question. It makes me think, because now I'm like, okay, which organizations stand out, or what have they done?
Well, if you want, we can talk about the ones that are coming up short, right? But I'm hoping that there's positive potential examples to aspire towards as well.
Yeah, well, I'm biased, but I would like to also bring up my association, AANA. DEI is a part of the strategic plan, and it is a value, one of the part of the values, and you'll see it on the website. And just our external activities, we have a diversity, equity, and inclusion director who focuses a lot on the members activities, and she also helps with the state associations. And helping them address any injustice or any equitable needs or issues that they may have. And we are very like, and just with me as their employee, and I've noticed that accessibility is very much of a priority here. I remember that our building manager, one of our previous building managers, when we actually moved buildings during the pandemic, our building was sold and we moved into a more hybrid environment. And I remember kind of being worried a little bit. I was like, okay, how are they gonna, make it accessible for me? Are they gonna be able to get in all the stools, or are the desks gonna be, adjustable, all those things? And without me asking, they already took that effort. They already made those plans for me. They already went ahead and made sure all the arrangements for me were put in place for me, and I didn't have to lift a finger. I didn't have to ask. I just asked in the sense, I just asked to like double check. I was like, hey, like, I just want to make sure that A, B, and C is in place. And they're like, don't worry, it's already taken care of. So I was very pleased. I was very pleased with how that happened. And so I really applaud like my association's like efforts and like really prioritizing DEI. And I also like to point out ASAE too. Like they've really made big efforts, really big strides in ensuring DEIA all across the board and in associations. And I actually currently sit on the ASAE Accessibility Task Force, and they are implementing like an accessibility-wide strategy and making sure to listen to the needs of the disabled members and the disabled community to talk more about where improvements can be made in terms of accessibility and how it could be a universal strategy. Yep. rather than having it as like a separate entity, weaving it into the operations.
I appreciate how your determination lends to you being a voice of leadership in this area that can teach, inspire, and hopefully recognize others as well. I'm curious, as you look around and see colleagues and you think about what's coming in the future for the association community, those who want to aspire to be leaders in the future, what do you think are the skill sets they should be looking to gain, or the expertise they should be looking, right? What's going to make a good leader for tomorrow?
I like that question. I think the first, one of the two, like the traits that stick out to me mainly are authentic, like the authenticity, and inclusive. Being authentic, because this is a huge part of my leadership journey, because for the longest time, I thought I had to be like someone, or I had to aspire to be someone. Like, especially in my, I'm the immediate past president of my alumni association at Benedictine University. And I actually did not expect to fill the president role. I thought I was just trying to be vice president, and that was it. I just didn't think I could handle president. But I remember the executive director, the director of alumni relations, said, Samyuktha, you could do it. You are a titan. You have the skills needed. And I'm like, I don't have the skills. The president who just left is this. And he's like, don't worry about it. Samyuktha, just be yourself. He literally, like, he said all those things to me, and I was just like, okay, I just have to be myself. And it's true. You be yourself. You be courageous. You be vulnerable. You be authentic in your own way, and everybody will adjust. Everything will flow how it goes. That's how you set the tone, and it will, the universe adjusts that way. So that is the first trait. The second trait I want to add is inclusive. Yeah. This world is diverse, so we need to include all voices and make sure everyone has a chance to contribute.
There's other questions I can ask, but I feel like that's such a peak of the pinnacle to end on. It's a really powerful place of focus, that like you are enough, like know yourself, be yourself, and the path opens. And hopefully some determination helps there as well.
Exactly.
So I'll ask this as we draw to a close. Far in the future, when the stage of working with associations comes to a close, what do you hope is the legacy you leave behind? What's the legacy from your career you hope is left behind you?
Um, I guess the legacy for me that I want to leave behind is I don't want to be the first and last disabled person of color to be in leadership space, to be in these spaces, to be in these opportunities. I really hope as wherever I go, wherever I move on, I really hope that I pave the way for voices like mine to take my place, to be in fulfilling leadership roles or in spaces where they're elevated.
Well, clearly the work that you're doing and what you're teaching is opening up minds and helping to inspire others. And uh, our organization and industry will be lucky for your leadership, not just today, for tomorrow. I really appreciate you spending time with us today on Rockstars.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And also want to thank you. And everyone should please, if you have not yet done so, you should go check out Samyuktha's podcast, that A Little Perspective. It is a great listen. And want to just thank Amy Hager, who's in the background, also making sure all the chat and comments that we have flowing all happen together. And thank you to everyone who continues to tune in so that our community can learn from, listen to, and join together to celebrate those that have determination to build a better tomorrow for our association world. Until next time, Association Rock On. Thanks, everyone.